Chelsea Jensen here. Today we are going to make some little hash brown patties, fry up some bacon, sausage, make some eggs, and then we're going to make some pumpkin muffin because we had some leftover pumpkin from our pumpkin scones yesterday, and my kids love pumpkin muffins as well. So let's get started on these so they can start baking in the oven. We're going to start with our wet ingredients. We are going to add in a half a cup of our sourdough discard. There we go. And this doesn't, it can be active if you want. It doesn't have to be. It's just a great way to get rid of it before you need to feed it. So we've got a half a cup of our discard. There we go. And then we're going to add in a cup of pumpkin puree. So that is just going to be about the rest of my can, since we used about half a cup yesterday, which is always nice when you have two recipes that can use the same, all of your ingredients up. Okay, perfect. And then a fourth cup of melted butter. So that's a half a stick of melted butter. 2 eggs. So 1 and 2. Let's give this a nice stir. Let me grab out a spoon. Let's mix this up, and then we'll add in our vanilla, our spices, sugar, and baking soda. But I want to make sure these get all kind of creamed together. My kids love, I know it's not pumpkin season time, but they really do love pumpkin bread and pumpkin scones. So they were asking for them the other day, and I was like, you know what? We can make them. There. Okay, we've got them all of our really wet ingredients mixed together. We're going to add in a half a teaspoon of vanilla. There we go. And then we're going to add in a cup of brown sugar. So we're using brown sugar for this recipe because it's much richer in flavor and it pairs really well with the pumpkin. So let me pat it in here. This is a half cup, but we're going to need a whole cup. So we're going to do 2 of these. And get any of those little crumblies off of me. Now we're going to do pumpkin pie spice. So we're going to use a whole tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. Really give it that nice, lovely flavor. Now, if you don't have pumpkin pie spice, you can make a blend using cinnamon, cloves, and allspice. There we go. And let's do a half a teaspoon of salt. If you use unsalted butter, you'll want to use a little bit more. We're going to give this a nice stir, mix that up, and then we'll add in our baking soda before we add in our flour. And then our muffins are pretty much done. We'll have them go into the oven, start baking. These do bake a little bit longer than my regular muffin recipe because that pumpkin makes them a little bit more moist. But they do smell lovely. Okay, and now we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Make sure it all gets in there because your baking soda with the eggs are going to be the rising agent for our muffins.
You have a question? Do you post the recipes?
We upload the videos to all of our streams so that people can recreate the recipes from there. We do add recipes cards to our membership for those who want it. And occasionally we post a recipe card for everyone here and there, but they do take me a bit more work. So I tend to keep them for our members and whatnot. Okay, we're going to add in a heaping cup of flour to our mixture here, and then we're going to gently kind of stir it in. You don't want to over mix it because you don't want to have stiff muffins. You want to have nice, light, fluffy muffins. So just be careful not to over mix. But we're going to stir it until it's just incorporated and it'll be nice and kind of chunky. Because we're using butter in our batter, it's going to be a bit thicker than if you were to use oil. There we go. Just nice, kind of mix around. Get all of it there. Okay, so we have it to where it's just incorporated. Nice, lumpy, chunky batter. Now we're going to line our muffin tin with our liners here. And then we'll scoop in our pumpkin batter and we'll sprinkle them over with some pumpkin seeds, some raw pumpkin seeds. My kids really love the pumpkin seeds on top. You know, like Starbucks has their little pumpkin loaf with the seeds on the top, and they all fight over who gets that part. And, you know, it's funny, when they were little, none of them would eat that part, and that was the best. And I was like, yeah, of course I'll take your seedy top. Now they all know better now. Okay, we're going to scoop these in. I think I'm going to go grab a metal spoon. It's a little bit easier to scoop with a metal spoon. And we're going to fill them up. I'm going to try to divide it. We'll divide it out as evenly as possible between these 12. And then we'll come back over and fill them up a little bit more. But this recipe makes a dozen. I like to have, for our family, a dozen is like the perfect size. Because, you know, I have 5 kids and my husband and I, so they're 7. And then my parents, that's 9, which typically leaves about 3 left over for the kids to fight over. And we're going to scoop through. And then once we'll do that, we'll come back over. I do like my muffins filled pretty high to the top. I don't leave them low. I like them to have that nice bakery dome on them, which means I fill them up high. No skimping. Okay, and now we'll go back through and we'll give each one a little bit more. That way they'll be nice and full. Now you can substitute, I use butter in this recipe. You could use coconut oil or even like olive oil or vegetable oil. Your batter would be a little bit more runny if that is the case, but it would bake up just fine. I personally think butter in baked goods leads to a better end product, has nicer flavor, richer texture. So I typically almost always use it in my baked goods. You know, there are occasions where you got to do something else, but it just makes it nicer. Okay, I think we've got ours pretty much all evenly full. Got our batter empty. Give my hands a quick rinse. And then I have some organic, whatever, pumpkin seeds, whatever. They're just raw. You kind of want them to be raw. And we're going to sprinkle a couple over the top of each one. They'll give them a nice little crunch at the top. You could chop them up smaller if you wanted to, but I just leave mine right on top here. There we go. And then we're going to pop these in the oven. We're going to pop these at 350, and they're going to cook for about 20 minutes. And then they'll be lovely. And once these are done, we can start working on the rest of breakfast. Okay. Let's get our pumpkin muffins in. This is also so yesterday we made pumpkin scones with like a brown sugar maple glaze. All of them are gone. And the kids are like, oh, can you make those again? I'm like, oh, I won't make those exact ones, but we can have pumpkin muffins, which are just lovely. I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes and hopefully we'll have the rest of breakfast about done by then. Okay, let's get started. We're going to get our bacon cooking up, and then we're going to peel our potatoes and shred them because we're going to make kind of crispy hash brown patties. So let me get my bacon open. We'll just do our kind of crazy fry in our frying pan of our bacon. I will say That's kind of our staple. We've got, everyone loves bacon, except I have a few that are sausage fans. So we'll throw in a couple sausage links afterwards. But we're just going to break it apart. This one's already falling apart. We prefer the thin cut bacon here because we love how it crisps up so nicely versus thick cut. I think gets chewy and it doesn't give you that nice, good crisp to it. So I'm going to break these all apart. That way they can sweat out their bacon grease. And then we'll cook our sausage in that bacon grease, and then we'll drain a little bit of it and cook our eggs. Let's just break this. This is really thin cut today. Here we go. Just a few more left. I know a lot of people like to do theirs in the oven, but my family always prefers pan-fried bacon. It's just, I think it gets more crispy, more crunchy versus in the oven where it sometimes can be a bit chewy. But of course, when you do a large family, typically the oven is the best mode. There we go. Like at Thanksgiving time when we're cooking bacon for my family, like the whole crew, and there's like 30, 40 people there, then we're doing like it in the oven, and there's so many. So we'll let that kind of start to sweat up, and let's start making our hash browns for our little hash brown patties or things. So we're going to give our 2 russet potatoes. Now these are giant russet potatoes, so they're probably closer to 4. We're going to give them a good peel, and then we are going to shred them for our hash brown patties, and then we'll add in some egg, flour, seasonings, and we'll start frying them up. But I like to take the skin off for these just because I think they make a nicer hash brown. There we go. So we've got 1 down, 1 to go. But these are they're like almost the size of my face. They're huge. These are what my family calls the appropriate size for baked potatoes. Anything smaller than this, then it's not a baked potato. And I'm like, these are huge. You always get like 1 or 2 of these in a big bag of potatoes. There. Okay. So we've got our potatoes peeled up. Let's get rid of these potato skins. And then we're going to shred or grate them using our little hand grater here. So just hold your potato and you just slide over it. And I'm using the big, thicker grate section, so it gives me some nice, like almost looks like shredded cheese. But that's about what you want. We'll squeeze a little bit of the potato juices out of it so they're not super soggy and wet, and then we'll season them up. We're also going to add in some green onions for a nice little savory flavor.
You get a question, where did you learn to cook?
I just practiced over the years. You know, I started cooking for my family growing up when I was 13 years old. I started taking over cooking dinners, and I've just always loved it, and it's always been a passion of mine. Always watched cooking shows, read all the magazines. You know, Williams and Sonoma was one of my favorite stores. But just practice over the years. And anytime I would have something fun at a restaurant, I would always go back and I'm like, I'm going to recreate this dish at home. There we go. Almost there. Doesn't take, you know, people think it takes a long time to shred up your potatoes, but it actually goes pretty fast. You know, I think the peeling the potato is probably the slowest part, but they make for just so good. There we go. And then when it gets to that last little part, when it gets a little too small, just chuck it. But look how much one potato, this is how much hash browns that one potato makes. Now we'll squeeze out a lot of the juices, that starchy water in there. That way we'll have a crisper potato thing when we're done. So let's take a 2-second pause. Check on our bacon over here. I can hear it sizzling. I'm going to turn it down now to about a 5. I always have my skillet on hot to get that quick sweat of the bacon grease out, and then I turn it down lower so that it crisps up in it. Because if you keep it on high, you'll have burnt bacon. But you need that good fat to sweat out in order for it to crisp up. There we go. Roll up my sleeves. I got my baggy sweatshirt on today. It's like my favorite. You know how you always just have like comfort clothes that you wear over and over, even though I have a whole closet full of clothes. Got like these three sweatshirts that I just absolutely love. Just to have like a weird cut, and I love them. There we go. Give a nice pile in there. And we should have these grated up in no time. I know a lot of times I don't do the shredded potato ones, and I don't know why, because they're really not that hard. I just get used to kind of just cubing up and sauteing them. But I was like, you know what? I kind of want really crispy, kind of like hash browns, like, you know, the McDonald's hash browns. Those are so good. This is something you can't beat. There we go. And we are done with our shredding up our 2 potatoes. See? Didn't take long. Now, we'll put these in here. And then I'm going to grab a paper towel and we're going to squeeze some of that liquid out. I find it's just the best way to do it with some paper towels than to get a cheesecloth out. And you just are going to really push it on there and squeeze it. It's just like when you're working with zucchini. You've got to squeeze out the juices of it so that it doesn't kind of flood your pan. There we go. And I just mix it around and give it a little bit more squeezes. But that should be good. So it kind of made it all a little bit damp, but it's nice and ready. So we've got our nice little hash browns here. Now we're going to chop up some green onions to add to the mix, which will add just a lovely kind of oniony, savory flavor. And then we're going to toss in 1 egg, some flour, some onion powder, and garlic salt to kind of really like season them up, coat them. And then we'll kind of drop them in little like lumps and flatten them down with our spatula to make our little kind of crazy hash brown patties. I'm just go over these a couple more times because I don't want to have any huge green onions, more finer bits in our hash browns, but I love the savory flavor that the onions give, especially the green onions. I prefer the green onions over using a yellow onion for this. Chives would also work out well. Okay, got these. I'm gonna add them in. And let's give my hands a quick rinse here. We're gonna grab my flour while I'm over here. We're gonna add in 1 egg.
You have a question? Did everyone like the pork chops?
Oh, they did. Pork chops is one of those meals that, you know, everyone really, really likes in our house. Even like the kids, we always called it, for my little ones, I always call it white steak. And then they're like, oh, it's delicious. We're going to add in about a tablespoon of onion powder. Also give it a really savory flavor. We're going to add in just a tidbit of paprika. This is going to help make it a nice and golden color. Give you that nice golden look. So probably a half a teaspoon. A little black pepper, just for that lovely spice flavor to it. Maybe about a half a teaspoon. And then we'll do our garlic salt. You're going to want about a teaspoon and a half of this. You're going to want a bit more because this has got to season them up. And now, before I add my flour in, we're going to go through and kind of really coat all of our potato bits and mix this around. And then we'll add the flour in for our hash browns here, which we'll be having with bacon, eggs, sausage, and our pumpkin muffins that are baking up in the oven. So there we go. Kind of mix it around, but you see how that paprika really changes the color, gives it more of a golden color. And now we're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of flour. And this is just going to help them stick together in the little patties that we're going to kind of fry up here. There we go. Get all of that off. And let's get our oil heating up for our hash browns. So let me turn my skillet on. We're going to pour in some olive oil. We just want to have a nice kind of covering over the bottom of it, but we don't need enough to submerge it. And you do want to use a non-stick pan for this, just so that you don't have the crusties like burning down for that. While that is heating up, let's get our flip right here. Get our bacon. You can see it's just lovely. And it's starting to crisp. I'm going to just turn around. I'll put my bits, spread it out again. Let's throw in these last little spices. We should be about nothing else we're cutting up on here.
Yeah, what brand pans do you use?
So I have a couple of different ones. These I love. I have 3 of these. These are my hex clad. As you can tell, they have like the little hex clad. They're non-stick, but not Teflon. I've had them for 2 years and I have yet to scratch them. So I will say they were worth the money. I absolutely love them. And like I use them every day. I have another one that I love. It's called a scan pan, which is a thin metal pan with a cast iron coating. So I love that. I do also have the all clad for it. I got this as a wedding gift like forever ago, and they work really well. But for the non-stick, hex clad. I've used the Cuisinart and the Calphalon ones of those before, and they just always scratched over time. So I'm a big fan of these. Let's see if our oil, we want it to get nice and hot. You don't want to put your potatoes in until that oil is hot, because then you won't get that initial crisp up. So look at her. I'm always trying to make it to where my bacon's all crisping up nicely at the same time. Let's grab a spatula out because we're going to put them on, and then we're going to smash our little patties down. Knock the little towel here. And let me grab a little spoon.
Do you know if the hex clad or dishwasher safe?
I don't think they are. I've never put mine in the dishwasher, mainly because they're so big and we're a large family, so we just don't have room for it. But I'm pretty sure they're not. I think. Yeah, my husband does dishes. So, but they're just so big, and when you have so many people, you don't have room for it. But I don't think they are. Okay, we can see our oil is bubbling now. So we're going to add in a few globs. We'll do 3 at a time. And then we're going to smash each one down with our spatula. There we go. We're going to let those crisp up. I'm going to turn it down now to about a 7. It's head on high. Now I'm going to get 2 plates ready for my bacon and for my little hash browns here. I'm going to put some paper towels on them, so when we transfer them out, they'll soak up the grease. There we go.
Do you think that they would freeze well for future use?
You know what? I think they probably would. If you gave them, I want to say if you gave them a light fry and then froze them, and then you would want to still fry them up, I don't think they would be as well if you fried them all and then froze them. But if you gave a light fry and then when they were de-thawed, you could crisp them up again, I think they would. Because you've got them coated in spices, and if you do the light fry, you'll get a little oil on them, which would prevent them from turning black or purple. So I actually think they would freeze down well. Okay, let's give these a flip. And you can see, we're going to wait right here. You can see the edges of my hash browns are starting to turn kind of like a golden brown. So I'm going to wait until I see that golden color between them. But because the potatoes are shredded so thin, these are going to crisp up pretty quickly, which is lovely. So I'm just going to peek. I think these are ready. Look at that golden kind of crispy hash brown here. Isn't that just excellent? And they have those just lovely flavors in them from the onions, the onion powder. Paprika gives you this nice golden color. So it doesn't really add any of the flavor, but it takes you from having like a white hash brown to a golden hash brown. And I will say that just makes it look prettier. Okay. Our bacon is almost getting to the crisp up. We'll fry our sausage in this. I will say this was a very thin cut bacon, so it's actually cooking up really well. I find thick cut, as I mentioned earlier, just does not crisp up as nicely. And when I'm looking for my bacon, when I know it's well, is when it is like white foam starts coming out of the edges of it and it has like that nice kind of crispy edging. That means all of the liquid is almost gone, like the liquid in the bacon is gone. And so it's just crisping up there. Okay, let's check. We'll get our, let me get another spatula, I think, for transferring these. My fish spatula. This is, I know it's being, this is the fish spatula, which is designed for like after you cook a fish, filleting it off, removing it from the skin, and also transferring it. But I use it for so many other things. It's one of those buys that I am like, this is the best thing ever. Let's look around. Very nice. Okay. I think these are just about ready for their first ones out. Look at that. Perfect kind of golden crispy edges there. I'm just going to do a flip over. Yep. Make sure they're all nice and crispy. So these are just a great way to do some easy homemade hash browns that are so good and crispy. Let's get our next set in. I just kind of do a big spoonful, and then we'll go down and flatten them. And you want to make sure you smush them down and flatten them well. Otherwise, they won't cook in the middle as well. So just make sure you flatten them out so that they'll fry up like a pancake. There we go. Perfect. But I think these are going to be so good. They're going to be so crispy. Okay, this bacon is looking excellent here. So I'm going to start removing the bits that I know are done. Add it onto it. I always put my bacon onto a paper towel because when bacon is able to absorb up the extra fat after it, it makes it crispier versus if it just sits in its own fat, it won't be as crispy. It will get to be more chewy. So I'm going to spread it out. That way it can kind of crisp up a bit more. And then we're going to throw our sausages in here, and we're going to cook our sausages real quick in here. I'm actually using pre-cooked sausages. Sometimes I use like the frozen ones, but these I still, even though they're pre-cooked, I like to crisp them up in the bacon grease. It just adds a bit more flavor. And you don't need to worry about cooking them all the way through. Really, you're just heating them up and crisping the outside, and then we will make some eggs. And our muffins should be ready soon. Let's look, see how these are cooking. Almost. And again, the telltale sign is when you start to see the whole outer edge turn golden brown. That's when you know to flip. If you're not seeing it, don't flip it yet because that means it's not going to be cookware. The outside turns more golden first than the middle one. So you want to make sure that they have that nice rich brown color on them before you flip. There we go. And then I'm going to wait on this one because this one isn't quite brown on the edging yet. But delicious. Let's give our sausages a little turn here. But you see how they just crisp up so nicely in here. Our oven is beeping now, which means our pumpkin muffins are just about done, which is almost perfect timing on everything. Let's grab my oven mitt, a trivet. Got you. look at our gorgeous pumpkin muffins. They are beautiful. See, they're nice and popping. Those pumpkin seeds up at the top, they're just delicious. You get the nice brown color from the pumpkin, but also the brown sugar gives it such a lovely golden hue. But it works so much better than regular sugar because those caramel undertones, the molasses undertones, and the brown sugar really pair well with the pumpkin and the pumpkin spices. And then using the melted butter over an oil gives you just this rich, kind of denser pumpkin bread that is so delicious in flavor. And we used about a half a cup of our sourdough discard in these. So they are also gut healthy, but it's also a great way to use discard when you're making sourdough bread. Okay, let's get, this guy looks like he's flipping and ready. Perfect. Nice crispy one. Our sausages, I think, are almost done. Yes, got nice little crispy edges on them. And I only cook these in the bacon grease on like a 2 out of 10. So they don't get too, you don't want to overcook them so fast because they are pre-cooked. You really are just crisping up those edges and warming them up. But they give you that perfect crisp on them. Okay, we're gonna let them kind of sing off. And then we're gonna take a little bit of this bacon grease out. Now you could fry your potatoes in the bacon grease too if you wanted to, but we're gonna be using it for our eggs. Now we have a bit too much bacon grease for the eggs, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some out with a paper towel, but let me check on my latkes here, or my potato hash browns, see how they're doing. Ooh, just perfect. Nice crispy edges. Look at this one. You see red? That one needs a minute more, but we can put our next ones in. There we go. It's a nice big scoop. And with this, remember, we shredded up our fresh, like our russet potatoes. Then we mixed in 1 egg, about 2 tablespoons of flour, 3 green onions, some onion powder, and garlic, salt, and pepper, and paprika. You mix that up so they have like a binder together, which holds your kind of your hash brown patties together. Look at this. See? Beautiful crispy edges. Just gorgeous. Put our next one in, and then we're going to make our eggs real quick, and breakfast should be almost ready. Give this a smash down. Make sure you want to smash them thin too. Okay, so we don't need this much grease for our eggs or they'll be just so overloaded. And so what I do is I'm going to just take some out with my paper towel here. This is the way I always get rid of my bacon grease is I use a paper towel to soak it all up because it's such a pain trying to pour it into another container and letting it cool versus I can do this. The paper towel can cool and then we're good. Doesn't go down a drain. So I just need a smidge in here for our eggs. You don't need a whole lot. Just a smidge. I'm going to put this in my bowl over here. So I have about a tablespoon left. That's all I really need for my eggs. And then we're going to crack them in. We're going to do just a crazy scramble on them because that is the way most of my kids like their eggs. I'm going to start with my thing on very low because we're going to scramble them in here. Versus, I see you stealing that bacon. My husband never waits for breakfast to be served. Is it good bacon at least? Did it crisp up? Perfect. That's what I thought. It looked like it crisped up well. I will say, there is a difference in brands and different ones. They don't crisp up as well as other, and thick cut never crisps up. Okay, let's get a good stir, a scramble on our eggs. So I just do a crazy scramble. I don't even do it in a bowl. It's just easier this way. And mix it around and do it nice and low. They say actually if you cook your eggs on high heat, they're more likely to stick to your pan than if you do it on low heat. Also, a good nonstick pan works wonders. Let's get these flipping. Beautiful. This one needs a little bit more. We'll do a rotate. And you want, that's why I said it's really that golden edge. Once you see it, then you know that's flipped. It's like a brownish golden. That's when you know. Give this a good slide around. Now, the tricks to have, if you want fluffier eggs, you can add in like a tablespoon of milk or water for a fluffier egg. But you want to, I just kind of flipped all of that out. You'll want to whisk it in first. So that would be where you would want to do it in a bowl beforehand. If you want a richer egg, add in an extra yolk. If you do that, you'll have a much richer egg as if you bought the high quality eggs, the ones that have like the really yellow yolks. Just adding an extra yolk will give you more of that flavor. Okay, I'm going to turn mine up now to about a 4 to finish off the eggs. There we go. That one still needs a bit more time. Flip them back over. Let's see how this one's cooking. There we go. Okay, let's sprinkle a little bit of salt on our eggs because I like to salt them while they're cooking, and that prevents my kids from over salting at the table. I feel like I have to hide the salt shaker from some of my kids because they will like, it needs salt, and then they're like salting for days, and I'm like, it's a lot of salt. There we go. Now, if you are cooking like eggs for a bunch of people or you have a wait and you don't want them to overcook, stop cooking them just before they are done. The residual heat of the pan will continue cooking them, which will prevent them from drying out before you have a chance to serve them. So I'm going to leave my eggs right this, which is kind of a soft scramble. But by the time I serve them up to my kids, it will be more of a firm scramble, which is what they like. It's my mom, I will tell you, she loves a snotty egg is the only way to describe it, where it is really runny. We like a firm scramble on our eggs here. Okay, that's almost there. And that one looking done. That one's looking good. Let's transfer these, and then we can start serving up our breakfast here. Get that one. Actually, I want to fry that one over cinch more. Okay, let's get a plate and let's serve up breakfast here. So let me slide. It's a little bit warm. Slide this out of the way. So we are going to start with our crispy hash browns. I'll put 2 on the plate. Delicious. Sausage cooked in our bacon grease. Crispy bacon. A nice serving of scrambled eggs, also cooked in our bacon grease, and our delicious pumpkin muffins made with our sourdough discard, a cup of pumpkin, brown sugar, and topped with pumpkin seeds for just a fun, different take on a Sunday or Saturday. It's not even Sunday, Saturday brunch here. But these are going to be my kids' favorites because they're so delicious. They've got that nice crunch and that crispiness, just like almost like a McDonald's hash brown, but so much better because they're homemade. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day to show you what we're making for our family, but also hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of our recipes at home, you can just go to that link, find our videos, and cook along with me again. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.